Hi, I'm Sonia and welcome to today's lesson. Well, if you need to learn English and stop making silly mistakes, then you need to really focus on this particular lesson extremely well. Alright? Because if you look at the title, it says, do you make these common mistakes? Well, yes. On the board here, I have some very common mistakes that we make regularly in spoken English, and we need to stop doing this right away. So let's not take up any more time and let's get straight to the board.
Subscribe and press the bell icon to receive notifications. Don't miss any new lessons.
The very first example that I have for you, it says amount versus number. Let's understand this through the sentence, alright? So I have a sentence here which says, I have reduced the amount of tea I drink. Let's focus on this here. Now, why have I said amount of tea? Well, tea is something that you cannot count. Can you count tea? No. You can measure it. You can say 1 cup of tea or 2 cups of tea, right? So that makes us understand that the word amount is always used with something which is uncountable, all right? Remember this. So uncountable. Things like water, sugar, rice, anything which is uncountable, you'll use the word amount. Look at the same sentence. What if I would have said, I have reduced the number of tea I drink? How funny would that sound, right? So remember, it's always the amount of tea because tea, like other things, is uncountable. The next example, it says, the number of participants is high. So here I've used number. Why? Because I'm using a word like participants. So supposing there's a competition, all right, and we're talking about the participants. Can I say something like the amount of participants is high? No, I can't do that. Because you can count participants. Either there are 2 participants, more than 100 participants, whatever the number is, it's countable, all right? So, number is used with something which is countable, okay? Remember this. If you can count something, you will use the word number with it. So, the number of participants is high. Okay, moving on to the next one here. It says among versus between. Now, I'm sure you're going to tell me, Sonia, there's no difference between this. But let me tell you, there is a huge difference and it's very easy to remember. So, between is used for two, okay? For two. And among is used for more than two, all right? More than two. Let's look at the sentences and understand this. The first one says, we divided the money among ourselves. So imagine if you've won a lottery, okay, and maybe 5 of you friends decided to chip in and buy the money, and you've all won the lottery now. So what are you going to do? You are going to divide the money among yourselves. Obviously, you are more than 2 people, you are 5 friends, so you can't say, we divided the money between ourselves. No. Because you are more than 2 people, you will say we divided the money among ourselves. Alright? The next example, Tom was sitting between John and Maria. So if you've noticed here, we are using the word between because we are talking about 2 people, John and Maria. Okay? Tom was sitting between 2 people, not between 3 or more than 2, just between 2 people. So very easy to remember. Please don't make this mistake if you're doing so. Between is used for two things or two people, and among is used for more than two things or more than two people. Okay, the next one here, this is again very simple, and these are very common words used a lot when we speak every day. Bring and take. So what could be the difference between these two? Let's look at the sentence first. Please bring the documents here. Okay? Now, if I'm saying something, okay, if I'm the speaker, if I'm making a sentence, and if I want something to be brought to me, towards me, I will use the word bring. So I will say, please bring the documents here. I will not say, please take the documents here. If something has to come towards the speaker, that is me in this case, I will use the verb bring. Okay, so please bring the documents here. So you'll use bring when you want to say towards the speaker. All right? And the next sentence, take the files away from my desk. So you're taking something away from the speaker. I'm telling someone to take the files away from me. So take is when something goes away from the speaker. There you go, as simple as that. Bring, something that comes towards the speaker, and take is something which goes away from the speaker. So 3 simple examples here. We will look at something more and a few more examples like these. So let's have a look at a few more common errors that we make nowadays, alright? So the next one here, it says further versus father. If you notice this, there's just a slight difference of one letter, right? But the meaning is absolutely different, and even when you pronounce these words, this one is pronounced as further and this one as father. So it has a long sound. Let's look at the sentences and then we'll understand what they actually mean. The very first one says, do you have any further questions? Now, I'm sure this is a very common line that you've heard whenever you watch a presentation or you're in a lecture, in college or something like that. A lot of people ask this question. So over here, do you have any further questions? This means, do you have any more questions? So further in this kind of a scenario can be used to mean more, all right? And farther, how will we use this? The shopping complex is farther away from here. Now firstly, do make sure that you don't confuse this with the word father. Look at the spelling, it has an R in it. So it's very different, okay, just sounds similar but the meaning is different. The word father is used mainly for distance, alright. So if you want to say that a particular place is far away, so you could say the shopping complex is maybe 5 kilometers farther away from here. So you use this word when you talk about distance specifically, not for anything else. So further means more in a situation like this, and farther means when you're talking about distance, when a particular place is very distant from another place, all right? And then we have the last example for you, which is fewer versus less. This is quite similar to the very first example that we saw, all right? So fewer is used for something which you can count. So fewer is used for countable nouns or countable things. And less is used for something which is uncountable. All right. So let's look at the very first sentence. I have fewer projects than her. Now obviously projects, you can count projects, right? You can say I have 2 projects on hand or I have 5 projects to complete for the month. You can definitely always count them. So when you're talking about something like this, you will use the word fewer when you're comparing. You can't say something like I have less projects. I have fewer projects. That's the right word to use. And then you have the next sentence. It says, the memory on the smartphone is quite less. Oops. So memory is something that you can't really count. Can you count memory? Okay, you can measure memory. You can say that the memory on the smartphone is 16 GB or it has a large memory. It's something which is uncountable. Okay, you can't count it like projects. And hence, with something like memory, you will use the word less. When you want to say that it is not a lot, it is less. So remember, fewer, something that you can count, and less is something which you cannot count, it's uncountable. So yes, these are some of the very common mistakes that we have been making for quite some time now. And if you've been doing this, I hope that you've understood everything very clearly and that you stop making these mistakes right away. Alright? This brings me to the end of the lesson for today. I hope that you enjoyed watching. Do make sure that you practice. Make sure you go through your examples regularly. I'll be back soon with something new. Till then, you take good care of yourselves. Bye-bye.